Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be checking out a cool little trick with note effects, and it's kind of a follow-up from the Euclidean sequencing or Euclidean rhythms video that I did recently on Bitwig as well. But this time around we're going to be looking at like how to create something similar to the rain sequencer or the Euclidean sequencer inside of Falcon, which is essentially polyphonic. Well, polyphonic in the sense that every note you play has a different sequence attached to it. So we're going to get stuck in here. I'll show you a couple of cool things that you can do with this. Let's first just remove these channels here. I've switched over to the driven by Moss for my machine controller, which I have to say is a lot nicer than the native support. One of the viewers on the previous video left a message about, thank you so much for the recommendation. I really love this setup. It's a little bit more complex, but you can do a lot more visual feedback as well, which is really nice. So anyways, enough about that. Let's just add in a channel here. We'll bring up the browser. And I'm actually going to look for an instance of Omnisphere in this case, just because I want a specific sound for this one. Let's go to Lumino Sonic Light Bulbs. I wanted something sort of percussive and bell-like. I love this patch. This is one of the patches that kind of sold Omnisphere 2. I've had Omnisphere since version 1, but when 2 came out, this was the reason to upgrade, was the sound that they demoed. Right, so that's all we need to do there. And let's get down to this section here, and we want to bring in a note effects, which is going to be the note repeat. So very much like we did in the last Euclidean video, you just go down to the bottom here, set up Euclid, and you now have a Euclidean sequence playing. There you have it. You can play this polyphonically. What will happen with that is they all play the same sequence. Now you can stagger that. They don't re-trigger every time you play this. You might be able to, I'm not sure if you can actually set up a re-trigger for this, but if you stagger the notes, you get sort of a delay effect happening there, but they're all playing the same sequence essentially, just starting at different times. What we want to do is we want to create different sequences for each note that's pressed. So the way you can do this is do a Control G to bring up or to group this note repeat, and we can leave this one as is. Now what we're going to do is actually right click on this and go to convert this to note effect selector. So now we have a note repeat as the first selection here. We're going to duplicate this one. So now we have a second one here that we can dial in a slightly different setting for. Let's rotate this one a bit. And let's duplicate this again. Maybe make this a little bit more sparse and maybe even just set this to 24. Let's do something like that. Rotate it again. We can do another one. Maybe this one will go a little bit more dense. And we'll rotate it slightly. Let's do one more. Let's go up to 32 for this one. I'm just kind of randomly setting these up for now. And let's do 6. So we can play 6 voices, each having a different Euclidean sequence playing. Right, so there we go. Now, the way to get this to work is if we come to our note effects selector, you'll see currently at the top here, we're in manual mode. Now, manual mode is going to require you to manually change these by selecting each one of them or assigning a controller to the selection process. And you'll see you'll have to re-trigger. To get those different sequences each time. But I want this to happen automatically, so what we're going to do here is if you click on this again, we'll come to the mode here, and you see you've got round robin, so a new note triggers the next layer. And then just below that, we've got round robin, but skips used voices when possible. And we're going to choose that because we want to kind of each time try and each voice should pick something else, not the same one, as far as possible. So once that's set up, you'll see now when I play a note, playing a note each time selects a new sequence. But now I can also play multiple notes at the same time. So let's start playing a chord. So now we're getting all these different sequences playing per note. You get some really interesting little chords and rhythms coming from this. Now if you're playing this, or if you're sequencing this as a clip here somewhere that's quantized, you probably won't have a problem. But if you're playing this live, we can just remove that now and add in a quantize effect, note effects. And this will live quantize any of the output coming from the note effects selector here. So we can just choose the 16th notes for this and play some chords. The cool thing with this as well is because we're playing 5-note chords here as well, we've got 6 sequences dialed in. So technically speaking, when you play your 5-note chord, it's going to choose from 1 to 5, and your next chord is going to go 6 to 4. The notes being assigned the different sequences. So you kind of get this constantly evolving, the same notes never play the same sequences. It's constantly changing up the whole time. I'll trigger that again. Yeah, there's slight subtle variations in the sequences now, as different notes get assigned different sequences. It's a really, really cool little way to kind of generate some super interesting ideas, very sort of organic. It works really nice with these sort of slightly percussive sounds. And of course, you could apply this to pretty much anything you want. You could stick another synth in here and just run this note effects and create these nice flowing melodies from these Euclidean sequences or Euclidean note repeats. Now, another way that you can use this, which is quite interesting as well, is to set it up with a drum machine. So what I'm going to do is just insert a new channel here again. We'll go to the browser. Let's just choose Bitwig, and we want the drum machine. You could arguably do this with any drum machine as well if you want to use battery or something like that. Just for the sake of this demo, I'm just going to grab the Bitwig one and let's open up a preset. I don't know what we're opening here, but let's just see. Pad mode. All right, not the most interesting sounds, but let's see. Let's do that instead. Now, this one does take a little bit of work to get set up, but you should just save this as a preset once you're done, and you can just load this up anytime in front of a drum kit. It's pretty easy to do. It's just you have to set this up for each pad. So what we're going to do here is now bring in a note repeat once again, and switch this to Euclidean mode. And you could also switch this. I mean, this would be useful too, switching it to no pattern as well. But we want to do this Euclidean thing. It just generates some really interesting rhythms for me. But what we want to do now is, again, we want to restrict one pad to a specific rhythm, so we can have multiple Euclidean rhythms playing over time. Now, you could do this with a single sample and just have different channels with different samples and change those up. But this works really nicely with sort of like quite weird percussion and things like that. You can just mess around. I'll show you how to set up some shortcuts to change things as well. What you're going to do is, before this, we're going to add in a note filter. And what the note filter does is we'll filter out everything except for what is in the key range. So what we can do here is our kick here is on C1. And this is the tedious part. So 36 would be C1, yeah, okay. You want to just select that one specifically. So when you play that, we have that Euclidean sequence being generated for the kick. So we can leave that one as is. And now what we're going to do is just group these again. So this time around, I'm not going to use an FX selector. We want these all playing at the same time, depending on which trigger comes in. So that works fine for us. We can now just go and duplicate this. This one, we're going to go to note 37. I do wish Bitwig would let me double click to enter. You've got a control click. It's something I haven't quite gotten used to yet. 37. There we go. And this, we can change this up slightly and maybe rotate this one. Let's add in another one here. And this will be 38. And I'm going to cut it here and just add in a few more of these, you know, to watch me doing all of these. Right, so I've set up note filters from C right through G. Now rather than just play these, I'm just going to create a clip here. And let's just add in note values for all of these. We're going to go 1C right up to G. That's as far as I went. And we're just going to extend these over the length of the clip. And now we can just play that back and see what we get. And let's just get this clip going. And there you have it. So each one of these pads now has its own Euclidean sequence running on it. You can change these up as you see fit. Maybe some of these you want to add in some accents. Slightly more sparse values might work well, yeah. Playing rotate. And there you go, a really cool way to just generate some interesting stuff rhythmically. Of course, you can go and just change up to the sampler at any given time as well. Bring in something different, see what you get. And as I said, you should be able to do this with every, any kind of drum plugin as well, provided that the notes line up with the note filters that you have set up. Which they should, I think, by most standards, these should be set up from C1. Let's just, yeah, C1. So we can go and load in something in battery. And let's just. I find this kind of thing works quite well with the sort of slightly weirder percussive stuff. Another thing you can do is drastically change up the pattern length. So let's maybe just extend this as well to do double on this one. We'll just extend the length of these notes as well. And then we can, on some of these as well, extend the length to say 32, for example. And some pretty interesting ideas that come out of that. Now, if you wanted to take this a little bit further, you could also just set up, you know, rather than going through all of these, it might be a bit of a mission to do, but if you are planning on utilizing this more often, let's just set up a preset page here and maybe assign these to stuff like the density, for example, and if you just do that and assign that, then you can have control from the front page over the density, rather than having to go into all of these all the time. We can just play around with this and this one. Might want to do the same for the rotate, I guess. That's something that you might want to use quite often, yeah. But you can experiment with this and play around. And let's see. On one density. So now we should have control over all of that. And if you wanted to take this even further, you could start applying modulation and things to this too. So let's go with a random LFO. And we'll maybe duplicate this twice. 3 random LFOs, yeah. And we could assign this to various parameters as well. Let me assign this one. Let's go with something different on this one. On that one, and I'm just doing everything at random here just to see what happens. But now we're getting different densities for each Euclidean sequence according to these. They should be set up to bars. So every quarter note, we're getting new density values for each of the notes on drum pads that are being played. And this is what we get now. So we're getting really random now at this stage. There you have it. So cool. I hope that was useful. I love playing around with these note effects layers. I find them super interesting and inspirational as well. I hope you guys enjoyed the video and learned something new here. I also just want to mention, do check out the Patreon page. I've just started it, and I am basically just doing a $5 sign up for the Patreon. Help support the channel, and I'm putting pretty much all the presets that I do up there at the moment. I've just released a new batch of presets for Repro 5. There's a bunch of Diva bass lines up there at the moment, along with the Dune 3 and Jupiter 8V presets that I initially put up when I announced it in the video announcement that I did on the channel. So go check that out. The link will be in the comments or below the video. And I'm adding new stuff to that all the time. So as that builds, there'll be a nice selection of presets for you guys to grab if you are subscribed to my Patreon. Cool. I will catch you guys soon in the next video. See you then. Cheers.